Hello, you guys. We're almost done. So we're going to pick up on book 4, Javert Off the Track. So don't forget that Jean Valjean had saved Marius as far as he got him out of the barricade. He continued through the sewers, ran into first Thénardier, who let him out of the sewer, thinking that he'd killed Marius. Then ran into Javert, who wanted to then take him to jail, and his only response was, "Can we take Marius home and save him first?" So Javert thinks Marius is dead, but he did that. And then when Jean Valjean went home, Javert just left. Javert left him, even though he was supposed to wait to go ahead and arrest him. So remember that Javert is very black and white. So for Jean Valjean to first save Javert, not shoot him outside of the barricade, then to save Marius, would really just kind of blow Javert's mind. It would go against every belief that he had, every core belief that he had. Okay, so we're starting book 4, Javert Off the Track, page 1, chapter 1, Javert Off the Track, page 1315. Javert made his way slowly away from the Rue de l'Homme Arme. Remember, that's Jean Valjean's house. He walked with his head down for the first time in his life, and for the first time in his life as well, with his hands behind his back. Until that day, of Napoleon's two attitudes, Javert had assumed one. The one that expresses resolution, arms folded across breast, the one that expresses uncertainty, hands behind back, was unknown to him. Now a change had taken place. His whole person, slow and gloomily, bore the mark of anxiety. He plunged into the silent streets, but he kept into one direction. He took the shortest route toward the Seine, reached the Quai des Ormes, went along the quay, passed the Grève, and stopped a short way from the police station of the Place du Châtelet, at the corner of the Pont Notre Dame, between the Pont Notre Dame and the Pont au Change on the one hand, and on the other between the Quai de la Messagerie and the Quai aux Fleurs. There is a sort of square lake traversed by rapids. This point of the Seine is dreaded by mariners. Nothing is more dangerous than this current, cramped at that time, and troubled by the piles of the mill on the bridge, since removed. The two bridges, so close to each other, increase the danger, and the water races alarmingly under the arches. It rolls on with broad, terrible folds. It gathers and roils up. The flood strains at the piles of the bridge, as if to tear them out with huge liquid ropes. Men who fall in there are never seen again. The best swimmers drown. Javert leaned both elbows on the parapet, with his chin in his hands, and while his fingers were clenched mechanically in the thicket of his sideburns, he reflected. A new thing, a revolution, a catastrophe had just taken place in the depths of his being, and there was matter for self-examination. Javert was in torment. For some hours Javert had ceased to be uncomplicated. He was troubled. This brain, so limpid in its blindness, had lost its transparency. There was a cloud in this crystal. Javert felt that the sense of duty was coming apart in his own conscience, and he could not hide it from himself. When he had so unexpectedly met Jean Valjean on the shore of the Seine, there had been something in him of the wolf retaking his prey and the dog that finds his master again. Before him he saw two roads, both equally straight, but he did see two, and that terrified him. He who had never in his life known anything but one straight line. In bitter anguish, these two roads were contradictory. One of these two straight lines excluded the other. Which of the two was the true one? His situation was beyond words. To owe life to a malefactor, to accept that debt, and to pay it, to be, in spite of himself, on a level with a fugitive from justice, to pay him for one service with another, to allow him to say go away, and to say to him in turn, you're free, to sacrifice duty, that general obligation, to personal motives, and to feel in these personal motives something general too, and perhaps superior, to betray society in order to be true to his own conscience, that all these absurdities should be realized, and that they should accumulate on himself, this is what prostrated him. One thing that astonished him, that Jean Valjean had spared him, and one thing that petrified him, that he, Javert, had spared Jean Valjean. Where was he? He looked for, but could no longer find himself. What should he do now? To give up Jean Valjean, that was wrong. To leave Jean Valjean free, that was wrong. In the first case, the man of authority would fall lower than the convict. In the second, a convict rose higher than the law and set his foot on it. In both cases, dishonor to him, Javert. In every course open to him, there was a downfall. Destiny has certain extremities overhanging the impossible, beyond which life is no more than an abyss. Javert was at one of these extremities. One of his causes for anxiety was that he was compelled to think. The very violence of all these contradictory emotions forced him to it. Thought, an uncommon thing for him, and singularly painful. There is always a certain amount of internal rebellion in thought, and he was irritated at having it within him. Thought on any subject, no matter what, outside of the narrow circle of his functions, had been to him in any case a waste and a fatigue. But thought about the day that had just gone by was torture. However, he absolutely had to look into his conscience after such shocks, and render an account of himself to himself. What he had just done made him shudder. He, Javert, thought good to decide against all the police regulations, against the whole social and judicial organization, against the entire code, in favor of a release. That had pleased him. He had substituted his own affairs for the public affairs. Could this be unjustifiable? Every time he set himself face to face with this nameless act he had committed, he trembled from head to toe. How could he resolve it? A single resource remained: to return immediately to the Rue de l'Homme Armé and have Jean Valjean arrested. It was clear that that was what he must do. He could not. Something barred the way to him in that direction. Something what? Is there anything else in the world besides tribunals, sentences, police, and authority? Javert's thoughts were in upheaval. A convict sacred. A convict not to be seized by justice. And that Javert's doing. Then that Javert and Jean Valjean, the man made to be severe and the man made to be submissive, that these two men, each of them the object of the law, should come to this point of setting themselves above the law. Could anything be more terrible? Okay, so Javert goes through this in the rest of the chapter. He continues to have a problem and not be able to change the conflict within himself between going to get Jean Valjean and letting Jean Valjean free. He ends up jumping into the water and killing himself because he cannot handle that he is now basically a criminal himself by not letting Jean Valjean go. Okay, so we're going to pick up. I'll give you the rundown before we start, but we're going to pick up all the way to page 1379, chapter 3, The Inseparable. 1379, chapter 3, The Inseparable.